Chris Brown was finally getting his life back together. He was touring, dropping music, getting love from fans again. Then out of nowhere, bam, he's hit with a legal bombshell from the UK. And guess who stepped in to stir the pot even more? 50 Cent. He hopped online basically saying, yo, they've been sitting on this case for 2 years just to take him down at the right time. 2 years. Not 2 weeks. Not 2 months. 2 years. They knew. They waited. And they dropped it just when Chris was gearing up to get back on top. Let's talk about what that really means. For someone like Chris Brown, whose career has been a roller coaster of highs and devastating lows, timing is everything. A hit song can change everything. A canceled show can ruin it all. And now this, a legal case from 2 years ago, suddenly reappears right as he's putting together a massive tour. You don't need to be a genius to see the strategy. Someone somewhere was waiting, watching, letting him think everything was cool before pulling the rug out from under him. Cent didn't hold back. He said straight up, they doing Chris Brown dirty. He wasn't just talking either. He's been around long enough to know how these things play out. This isn't the first time an artist got hit when they were on the verge of a comeback. And it sure won't be the last. But with Chris Brown, it hits different. Because this guy has already been through it all. And somehow he was making it back. And now, that whole tour he was about to go on might not even happen. The internet went crazy. Fans were shocked. Some were angry. Others were just confused. Why now? Why wait 2 years to bring this case up? And if it was so serious, why didn't anyone do anything back then? It's almost like they were saving it. Like they wanted to wait until it would cause the most damage, and it's working. Chris hasn't even responded fully yet, but the damage is already spreading. Venues are on alert. Promoters are nervous. And fans who bought tickets are left wondering if they're going to get their money back. And here's the thing. Chris Brown isn't the only one getting hit like this. Look at Tory Lanez. He's literally sitting in a jail cell right now. And it seems like every week there's some new headline making his situation worse. First the case, then the trial, then the sentence. And now rumors that he got stabbed in prison. The whole thing feels like a never-ending loop of bad news. And if you've been paying attention, you know he's not being treated like your average inmate. Every move he makes, every phone call, every conversation, it gets leaked, blown up, twisted. And now Chris Brown's being dragged into a similar mess. They used to be two of the most talked about names in music for the right reasons. Now they're headlines for all the wrong ones. People forget how talented these guys really are. Chris Brown has been singing and dancing at a level most artists only dream of. Tory Lanez had one of the best pen games in the game. And now, their names are being tossed around like they're criminals first and artists second. It's hard not to wonder if there's more to it. 50 Cent doesn't just speak to hear himself talk when he says people waited on purpose to release this case. Against Chris Brown, he's pointing at something a lot of people already feel but are scared to say out loud. That the industry isn't just about music anymore. It's about control, power, timing, and if someone sees you climbing too fast, they just might be ready to bring you down before you get too high. And for someone like Chris, who's been there before, who's had to rebuild everything from scratch, it feels personal. 2 years ago, this case didn't even make the news. There were no press releases, no major reports, just silence. Now suddenly, right when Chris Brown is trending again, the case is back. No one even knows all the details yet, just that it's serious enough to possibly cancel tours, freeze endorsements, and drag his name through the dirt again. That's all it takes these days. One accusation, one headline, and people back away. Sponsors go quiet. Opportunities disappear. Even if you're innocent, the damage is done. Some people are asking if Chris knew this was coming. Maybe. Maybe. Not. But if he did, it's possible he thought it was buried, that it was resolved or forgotten. And maybe it was. Until it wasn't. Until someone decided it was time to use it. That's what makes 50's comment hit so hard. They knew about this case for 2 years. That's not a guess. That's a warning. And it opens up a whole different conversation about how the system really works. How artists are handled. How fame can become a target. Chris Brown and Tory Lanez aren't just rappers and singers. They're examples. Examples of what can happen when the spotlight isn't just shining, it's burning. Every step they take, every word they say, every mistake they make, it's all recorded, stored, waited on. And when the moment's right, it's used. Now, it's easy to say, well, they should have stayed out of trouble. But it's never that simple. Everyone's got a past. Everyone's made bad choices. The difference is not everyone's mistakes are weaponized. Not everyone has their errors dragged back into the light, right, when they're finally moving forward. That's the part that hits hardest for Chris Brown fans. He was moving forward, really forward, dropping music, doing interviews, dancing, like the old days. And now it feels like everything's crashing again. The worst part? No one knows what happens next. Does the tour get canceled? Will there be charges? Will this all disappear again after the damage is done? Or will it be dragged out for months, maybe even years, while his career takes another hit? Chris hasn't said much. Maybe he's planning to fight it. Maybe he's just trying to survive it. But either way, the clock is ticking and the world is watching. Meanwhile, 50 Cent is still talking, still posting, still throwing out those little truth bombs that make everyone stop and think. He's not defending Chris Brown. He's exposing the system, saying out loud what a lot of people only whisper, that it's not just about justice, it's about timing, about making sure the story hits when it'll hurt the most. And that's where things get scary. Because if this can happen to someone like Chris Brown, someone with money, lawyers, fame, what happens to the people who don't have any of that? What happens when they're targeted? They don't get headlines, they don't get support, they just get crushed. So while Chris Brown might have a chance to fight back, most people wouldn't. They'd be done before they even got to speak. This isn't just a story about one artist. It's a bigger story about the industry, the media, and the way power really works. It's about how silence isn't always safety. Sometimes it's just the calm before the storm. And now that storm is here. Chris Brown is in the middle of it again. And it's not just about guilt or innocence. It's about timing and how sometimes the past doesn't come back on its own. Sometimes it's pushed, weaponized, released like a trap. And when it springs, the fallout is brutal. The next few weeks are going to say a lot about how strong Chris is, about how fair the system is, about whether the world is really ready to let him move forward, or if it's still waiting to pull him back. Either way, 50 Cent has already said it all. They waited, they knew, and now they've made their move. The question is, what's Chris Brown going to do next?